Okay. What I want to know. Okay, let me respond to everybody in the chat. So I hope these are the same comments from YouTube, but we'll see. Okay, let me check the YouTube. Okay, there we go. All right, all right, we good to go.
All right.
What's up, Ash?
What's good? This is a real thing.
Uh,
I wanted to have a theme
oh,
song about that, but I'm gonna try to get it done this week. I'm hoping to get it done. But I think it's gonna say something like, if you're European,
there we
Jesus came with knives and hearses. If you're West African, Jesus came to your tribes with curses. Thinker and best are bringing vibes and verses. Something like that.
go. Okay,
It's something,
I like it. I like it.
something like that.
I should have known. I knew you. You talking about give me 3 weeks. You don't
I
need
gotta
that much
actually
time.
record it is the problem. Getting it
Okay.
recorded is the issue. And I gotta find a way I want to do it. But anyway, welcome to Vibes and Verses, guys. Thanks for having us on your YouTube at the time. We appreciate that.
It would
I'm
be
back.
crazy if we both wear black. I said it's crazy we both wore black.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about this. This is fun. What do we want to do? We wanted to take the scriptures, starting at Genesis 1,
Verse by verse.
verse by verse,
I
try
mean,
to
yeah, verse by verse, but chapter by chapter.
chapter by chapter. Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
and see if we can get a good read and try to figure out, you know, just what is it that we find. And so today we're talking about the creation myths, right? And how do you want to do? You want to take a How do you want to do it? You want to take a
We
block
can
of
read it.
scriptures at a time?
Yeah, like I can read it.
Okay,
And I can share the screen.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Let me just a second here. I want to say what's up to the nerds and the Fishtions in the
One time
house
for the
today.
fishes and the nerds. Yeah.
Let's see.
Shout out to everybody that got this information off of Discord server. Probably should have. I should have made a private video about it, but anyway, I should actually made a public video about it. But you live and you learn. You learn to do better next time.
Yeah, this is our first episode, so we'll get better at it.
Welcome to episode 1. Thank you guys for being around for episode 1.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna be reading from the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition, and
Okay.
then okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna read one verse, and
Okay.
then we'll talk about like what we think that means, literal, metaphorical.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
That's cool. Yeah, that's
okay,
cool.
all right. Okay, so when God began to create the heavens, wait a minute, you want me to do the King James because this done took away. Let us. You see
Oh
the way it done changed.
yeah. Let's read it in the King James. And if we need to read it, if we run across something that we don't understand, like it's like, oh, what does that mean? Like, how do we say that in regular English? Then we can flip to another version or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I like about the New Standard Revised is that you get the Eastern Orthodox Bible in there too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Okay. So super simple. All right. Now most people would tell you that in a beginning, right? This is not necessarily indicative of the beginning, and for our understanding of it, looking at this as two separate, well, actually more than two separate creation stories, but multiple creation stories. This is one. Okay. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. Or if we read this in Hebrew, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim wa ha'eretz. Now, oddly enough, I'm trying to see how to say this. This could be metaphorical immediately if you wanted it to. And I feel like a lot of people miss this metaphor here. Okay, to Shema, little Hebrew lesson. Okay. Anytime I add "im" to a word, it's multiples, kind of like Eloah or El, and then I add
Mm.
Elohim. This is the multiples. Or Talmud is my students. Talmudim are the students, right? Okay. Shama means to hear. Shamaim means the heavens or the ones who hear.
Okay.
Okay. Eretz is the earth, but it also means to erect something, kind of like we use the word erect. Not that it's the same word, but very similar, very like what you call a cognate word. Erect or erects means to make firm, right? So on the one hand, literally I'm saying, in a beginning, God made the heavens and the earth. Or I could be saying, in the beginning, God made the listening ones that would make firm.
The listening ones?
The listening ones, Hashamayim, the heavens, the listening ones. Shama means to hear,
Okay.
right? Shamaim literally means the listening ones, the
Okay.
ones that hear.
So could that be when he made the angels and stuff? Then,
Could be,
okay.
could be. I'm putting this out here so that you understand. First of all, there's lots of different ways to read this, right?
Mhm.
Lots of different ways to read this. And however you may read it, you just have to make sure that you're consistent in the reading it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. But it's tons of ways to read this, and if as long as you're honest when you're reading it and consistent when you're reading it, you know, as long as you're okay with what that means if you say it, right?
Okay. Mhm.
So I always looked at this as God creating the system before He start putting stuff in it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say something, you're gonna hear it, you're gonna do it, right? This helps me understand all the things that happen next. And God said, and it was. I said it, and you did it, right? He created I'm gonna speak a thing, it's gonna happen, right? Say it,
Mhm.
you make it firm. Hear it, do it. Okay, that's how I always looked at it. Right.
Okay. So in the Blue Letter Bible, when it says that it's used in the absolute, right?
Say it
Does
again for
that,
me.
huh?
What'd you say?
The Shamayim.
Charmaine?
So when it says that in Genesis 1 that is used in the absolute, that means that it's literal or not
Yeah.
metaphorical.
I'm gonna say this one more time. There are lots of ways to read a scripture.
Hmm.
There is no one who can tell you how to read it.
Okay.
No one. Okay. Did the author intend for it to be the heavens and the earth? Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that the way to read it? Not necessarily. Okay. This
Okay.
is going to play into everything that we read, specifically in these first couple verses, but in anything that we read, right? And because a religion is not, how am I saying this? A religion is not text based. No religion is.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like, so when you get the evolutionists, right, come in and saying that Genesis is wrong because it's not in the correct order and all of that,
Right.
because they're looking at it literal, right?
Yes.
And this was written pre-religion,
Yes.
right?
Well, not pre-religion. Judaism was a religion when they wrote this.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
But it was definitely written pre-science. Right.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
so we're gonna run into a couple of pre-modern science, I should say. We're gonna run into a couple of sticky points. One, do we think that this is the word of an omniscient, all-powerful God?
Okay.
One, right? You can, no matter how you read it, you gotta live with that. Is this trying to convey some scientific notion? If you say that it is, then you got to live with that. Is this trying to convey some metaphysical blah blah blah? If you say that it is, you got to live with that, right?
Mhm.
Whatever it is, whatever negotiation that we make in text, we have to be sure that we're sticking to it. Otherwise, we get this confusing clusterfuck. I should have said that, but this mind jam, right? Where nothing makes any sense at all because we try to jump around once, oh no, we meant
That part's metaphorical. That part's literal.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
just take it
Yeah.
and run with it, right? And then read the text again, come back and read it over again in a different light. That's fine,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. But so in the beginning, God created the heavens, or in a beginning, or when God started creating the heavens and the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to verse 2. The earth was without form and void, right?
Let's see, verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
Here's the thing that I think people miss. Um, like a lot of people try to treat this as creation, what they call ex nihilo, like God made something out of nothing, right? But there was something here. You see what was here?
Darkness
Water.
and yeah, water and darkness.
Darkness was there, but
Mm,
specifically water was there, right?
yeah.
Right, water was there. So it wasn't that there was absolutely nothing. There was a water here, right? Now, there was water here, right? Now a lot of people go, "Well, God made the water." Well, they don't say God made water. There's nothing here that says that God made water, right? But that there were waters that already existed,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
just keep that in your head. Okay. First off, let me go back. We're
Hold on.
reading.
So that's one of the questions that I was going to ask, like, but I was going to wait until we got to like the some part. But like
Okay.
that's like stuff like that, like we don't pay attention to stuff like that because that's a legitimate observation. Is
Yeah.
that the water already existed, and it does not say that God created that water.
Does not say that God made the water. It does not. There's nothing in here to say that Elohim. Oh, I meant to mention that too. When what we're reading here, you're gonna run into Elohim. Almost this whole chapter. I think in this whole chapter, it's all Elohim. Okay, keep that in mind.
You see what Afro Atheist said?
I can't even see the chat. Let me see if I can
Oh,
see
she
something.
said it's okay to swear on YouTube, unlike TikTok bash. I swear on TikTok.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. I be cussing up a storm on TikTok.
I do too. Oh, you can't. You can cuss on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, I be
Okay.
on it.
Yeah. I do too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, because I be wanting to know. Okay, so again, notice that there was water there. Notice that the word that we're going to use for God, pretty much, I think in this whole chapter, is just going to be Elohim, right?
Mm.
When we really get into the JEDP, you're gonna notice more that well, one day we'll just do a day about it. But right, just notice that in this chapter we're only talking about Elohim,
Mm.
and notice how this God creates. Right, we're gonna learn how the God creates in the very next verse. How does this God create?
Okay. So the next verse, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Boom, God has officially created something. Right, and how did He create it? Just by saying it.
Mm.
Right. Remember how I cheated in the first verse. I cheated in the first verse and say that that's the system that He made. The listening once and then make it firm. To hear it, then make it firm. Let me say it and then do it.
Yeah.
Right. That's gonna be pretty much the idea for the rest of the chapter. He's gonna say it, it's gonna happen. Right. Well, they are gonna say it and it's gonna happen. Right. The Elohim are going to speak and then it's gonna happen. Right.
What was the light? What was the light here?
Now that particular light is the word our, or our. And that light is known as the light of information, I want to say. Like the light that light is the soul or whatever. Um, it is the or. And it could be the light of day. It could be the light of the sun, the moon, and stars. It could be the light of the lamp. It can also be the light of life. It can be the light of instruction.
But it can't be the sun, moon, and stars because that wasn't created till the fourth day,
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm saying this word can be used in that way.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to
Right.
figure out what because there this is the second light or the first light, and then you have the second light, right?
Well, if we were looking at this from like a cosmology standpoint, and I'm not saying that we should, but if we were looking at this from a cosmology standpoint, and if we're creating the universe and not just the earth, then there was light a long time before there was a sun. Our sun is only about 5 billion years old. There has been light in the universe since for about 13.7 billion years. It's been light here a lot. Like it took about 380,000 years for the first light to be seen in the universe once it cooled down enough for anyone to be able to detect a photon.
Okay.
So light has been here before the sun, the moon, and stars. Right. Light has been in the universe before the sun, the moon, and stars.
And so that's possibly the light that is talking about right there. Because when I was a Christian, I
Yeah.
would say that the light was the soul, that was the spirit that was created.
That was the spirit that was created. That's what you were saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's
Because that's
nice.
why, because I couldn't understand. Like there's two lights. So I'm like, that first light had to have been like the spirit.
Well, the
That's
spirit
what
was
I was
hovering over
saying.
water. Um,
I'm
and
talking
if
about
you
I'm
look
talking
at,
about I'm talking about our spirits, not God's spirit.
oh, these were our spirits,
Yeah.
pre-existing spirits, just out there in light
That's
orbs.
look, because when we get to day 6, he created the body, right? Like he created humans. So I was like, oh, he created our spirits first, and we resided in heaven with him first. Like that's what I was thinking. Because I'm like,
That's
what
really
is this
cute. I
all
like
like?
that. As a matter of fact, it's cute. Wow.
But yeah, that because I didn't have any explanation. I told you I'm not um science minded. I'm not very science minded. But yeah, there's some other stuff in here that was like, okay, why didn't I ever think of this as a believer? But we're gonna keep going. But yeah,
Okay.
that was what I was saying.
Okay. Okay. Again, from a scientific standpoint, there would have been light in the universe prior to the sun, the moon, and sun. I mean, sun, the moon, and stars.
Okay.
Okay. Because light is an agitation of the electromagnetic field, right? By a photon. So photons aggravate the electromagnetic field, and they give off this thing we call light, right? So as long as there's an electromagnetic field, and a photon, we can get light. That's
Okay.
all you need. Okay.
Now I'm gonna tell you, I heard what you said, but I was like, okay.
Okay. Oh, let's be nerds for a second. Let's be complete nerds. Okay. There are 4 forces in the universe.
Okay.
4. They are gravity,
Mm-hmm.
electromagnetic,
Mm-hmm.
the weak and the strong molecular force. Okay.
Okay.
So gravity, of course, we know what gravity
Yeah,
is.
the first two I got. I get that. The
All right.
last two I've never heard of.
Strong and weak molecular force are the things that hold molecules together, things that hold
Okay.
stuff together, like what attracts little things to little things.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. So gravity peeled the idea is that all these forces kind of used to be one, just one big blobby force. And at the expansion of the universe, gravity peeled off first, and then over time, the electromagnetic force peeled off, and then the stronger weak molecular force split apart. And so we got these 4 separate forces that we know now. But the hypothesis is that at one point they were all one.
And then that's what created the initial light that
Yeah,
in the universe.
once the electromagnetic force peeled off and things cooled off enough to where quarks were able to be made, you started being able to get what you call protons, neutrons, electrons, photons. These tons basically that they begin to kind of agitate the electromagnetic field, and then we got what we call light.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad I'm not alone. The sit down, UK. I'm, thank you. I'm glad I'm not alone in that. But
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
That so now when I look at that, I can say, oh, okay, so it's explaining when that separation of that big blob of the 4 forces.
But here's what I want you to know: this is not what this is explaining.
Oh,
The people
okay.
writing this have no clue as to what I just told you, right? They're not talking about that. They have no idea what an electromagnetic force is, what a photon is, none of that I just what I just said to you. Okay. They're just saying, the people writing this book are just saying, oh, there was a light. They have no idea about any of the science I just told you. They're just telling you their myth, their mythology.
Yeah, but so it takes me back to that. What light were they still talking about the sun and the moon when they said that?
No, they were just talking about the light of God.
Oh, the light of God.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So they weren't making a scientific claim when we're trying to run this as a parallel, but keep in mind they literally don't know nothing about it. Like imagine Imagine if you were in the first grade and somebody came to school with a snotty nose, and you said they got the cooties. You're not saying, you're not using the cooties as a code word for um, tuberculosis or some deep pneumococcal disease, right? You're
Mm,
just calling it the cooties,
mm,
right? You have no clue that they have whatever. You're just calling it the cooties, right? You don't know what it is. It's just it's snot on your nose. We call that the cooties or whatever. You get what I'm saying?
mm, yeah.
So same thing is true here. It's not that these people are explaining some deep scientific process. This is just the mythology that they know. They're not. It is not even all that wise to try to link them that way because that's going to fall apart in just a second.
Yeah, because there is a you know that guy that goes on college campuses and talks to college students about the Bible.
The
What's his name?
older white man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Um,
I can't remember his name though.
yeah, I saw him on a podcast with a well-known atheist, and I can't think of this atheist's name right now, but he's been like doing his podcast for like 20 some years. But they were in a
Matt Dillahunty.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So they were in a discussion about the creation story about Genesis 1. And this guy, like, he was like mad, like screaming at the camera, like turning red. And he was saying that God gave Moses this to give him an overview of how he created the earth, but he wasn't being he was like he wasn't just taking it step by step. He wasn't being literal. And he was telling Matt that like you're being dishonest because Matt was like, none of it makes sense. He was like, if you think that the order is correct and that your God told Moses this, he was like, then obviously your God is ignorant,
Right.
And but he kept saying that God wasn't trying to give Moses a step by step of how he created everything.
Yes. Okay. And I agree with him in one regard. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. You remember how the guy came on and talked to us the other night and was like, you have to just kind of assume that the God exists and then look at it this
Mhm.
way and then
Yeah.
squint your okay. A lot of a lot of times when we having these conversations, you have to kind of jump into the belief, to jump out of the belief, jump into the belief, look at it from that particular it gets strange. Okay. I'm saying, as of right now, this particular writing, we are talking about the Elohim, not one God, the Elohim,
Mm.
right? The henotheistic body of gods that are creating a heaven and earth, right? They have their way of doing it. This is their mythology. I mean, this is their mythology, right? This is their creation story. This is their etiology, how things begin, right? They're telling us a story. Boom. Or the followers are telling us a story, right?
Mm.
Not that I believe that the Elohim exists, but they're saying, hey, this is our version of what the Elohim did.
Mm.
Okay. It is not scientifically in order because reasons, right? It's just a story that they're telling us about how things came to be.
Right. Uh, I don't know. I guess it still makes me. Did they mean it to be literal? Like, did they mean for people to believe that this is how the God did it? And I get what you're saying that you can read it metaphorically. Like it depends on how you want to read it, right?
Mhm.
But it also depends on how it's being taught to you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because we growing up, we were taught that this is how God did
It's
it,
how, right.
and I think whether it's taught to you literal or metaphorical depends on your reverence and your loyalty to the deity.
Or
Because
how you see reverence to be, right? Like
yeah,
all of this is very speculative and subjective, and right. There are some people who are going to take this literal. There are creationists who really believe that God made the earth in 6 days. This is the literal truth. They are
Mhm.
no more correct about this than someone who believes that this is some metaphor in time and da, da, da. This, the point is that when the people who wrote this at the time did think of it as literal.
Okay. That's what I was talking for, like the intention
Yeah,
behind the writer.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
But who cares what they think? Right? Keep in mind, the people who wrote this never read the book of Matthew. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So they never they don't know what y'all gonna do with this stuff. They don't care what y'all like. They have a thing that they're trying to do while they're alive, while this system is going. This is what I mean. But that's not how texts work. Texts are gonna take meaning over time and then culture and da 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 da. And you're gonna put this with that. It's the nature of the beast. Okay. But they intended it to be literal. And they were talking about the light of God right here. Okay.
Okay.
Let's read the next verse.
Hold on, let me plug up my computer. Give me just a second, y'all. My
Plug
computer
up the
is
computer.
it done came unplugged. And then I forgot to put on the do not disturb. I told y'all gonna see some. It's our first time I forgot to cut on the do not disturb. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So and God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness.
Mhm. Give me the very next verse.
Okay. And God said, I feel like I'm in church. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And God said, let there be a
Oh, wait, wait,
firmament in
wait,
the
wait, wait. We
uh,
missed something. We missed something. God saw the
oh,
light.
and
Oh.
God called the light day,
Mhm.
and the darkness he called night. And the evening and morning was the first day.
Okay. Here's the first piece of weirdness. Okay. This is why I was saying, let's not look at this light as the idea of, I don't know, photons, right? Because it starts to get, there is no earth here yet, right? I don't know what it means to have a day and a night without an earth. What does that mean?
It means that the person that was writing this was just trying to write something to explain why there's day and night.
Right,
That's what it means to me.
right, right. And think now in their minds, and you're gonna kind of see how this happened very next. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. This is God kind of building from the earth out. We kind of look at it like God making this expansive universe. But think about their cosmology. Their cosmology is a flat, domed earth. This earth is already kind of here. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is first and foremost, right? They're not telling you how the earth came to be. In the beginning, God just made it,
Mhm.
right? So they're just talking about light and dark, period. And then they're gonna put the sun and moon up there to govern the light and dark, not necessarily to create light and dark. Light and dark are already there in their mind, in their flat earth, domed. We're gonna get into the expansion or the firmament that's in the waters, right? We about to get into this. So there's this earth that exists, and he's about to put a dome over it. The earth is already here, and there is a light that hits the earth. That's the light from God, right? And then there's gonna be some darkness where the light isn't. Then later on, we're gonna read into that. But so it's like we normally think of it as this is the story of how God made all the things in the universe. Well, that's our redaction, or that's our anachronism, kind of putting what we already know back into writing that's not about that. This writing has no clue that there are planets. This writing has no clue as to what a black hole is. This writing has no clue as to what like our current cosmology is. And that's not how they're writing it. They're literally describing a flat circular disc with a dome over it like a snow globe. And sometimes there is light on it, and sometimes there is dark on it. And we call that light day. And we call that dark night. Right?
Mhm.
But if we look at this from some like God is making the universe, then what the fuck is a day? Right? What do you mean that light? What? What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense.
The fact that it's capitalized has always been, a question of mine. Like, why did they capitalize day and night? Because usually when they capitalize a word is to symbolize some type of entity or sentient um being, right? Like a
Well, Yom
celestial
is a
celestial
sentient
being.
being.
I mean celestial.
Yeah, Yom
Yeah.
is a celestial being.
Okay.
Yom is actually two celestial beings. You remember when we talked about Halal ben Shakar?
Hmm.
Okay. Or
Oh,
Lucifer,
okay.
son of the moon. Yeah. The twins are Salim and Shakar, right?
Hmm.
Or morning and evening. And they are called Yom, the day.
So, so okay. So my mind is like going like 1,000 miles an hour right now. So
Mhm.
could it be that the light? Okay, so let me make sure I remember. So the Yom
Mhm.
is the being is Inky and Marduk, right? Like it's the I mean Enlil, is it Enlil and his brother or Inky and his brother? Who are the twins? Not you know what I mean when I say Inky. I'm
See,
trying to.
I refer to this story as the story of Sahur and Salim. I don't know of them as Inky and Enlil.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which one is it Yahweh that has the twin or is it Lucifer that has the twin?
Lucifer is the son of Sahur, which has a twin.
The son of Shahur has the twin. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that would be okay. Now I'm thinking. So could it be?
Sahur has a twin named Salim.
And that's night. That's morning and evening.
Morning and evening, yeah. And they are called collectively Yom.
Okay. All right. So okay. So that would be, and this is the only way I can keep track of it. Bash. I know you don't know.
Mhm. It's not.
Okay. That would be Inky. That Inky would have a twin. Inky would be um the him and his twin would be morning and evening.
Mhm.
Okay.
I guess.
So that's the only way I can keep track of it. Because that name that you're saying, I've not read before until you showed it to us. I can't even. I don't already forgot it. Shalom Shakur,
Sahar, yeah, it's Sahar or Shakar. Best
Shakar,
approach. Shakar
Shahar, and
and
Shakar.
Shalim and Shalim.
Okay.
So think of it like, okay, in the best way for me to remember that is the the Arabic word for breakfast is sahur, right? And Hebrew people, when they say like peace be unto you, they say shalom or shalom,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So the evening is shalom or shalim, and the morning is sahur, shahar, right? So
Mhm.
breakfast, shahur,
Shahur.
dinner, shalom.
So shalom Shahur because for them their morning starts in the evening.
That day starts in the evening,
The
yes.
day starts at evening.
For Hebrew people, and you'll read in the evening and the morning were the first day, right?
Oh,
So
okay. And the whole time when they say in the evening, in the morning, or the first day, I still like we are still not taught that their days start at night.
they started in the evening, yes.
And then now here we are, our days start in the morning, right? And then
Yes.
end in the evening. So it flipped.
Yes.
Okay.
Our days literally start at midnight, middle of the night,
Yeah.
right? Our actual day starts at like, I guess technically you call it the morning, but our days literally start in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night. Um, right,
Yeah.
right. So, but they counted a day from sundown to sundown. That's a day, sundown to sundown. Right.
Okay.
So from evening to evening.
Okay. So right quick, what is the significance of the switch? When it do you think Rome or Greek had the significance of the switch with putting the morning first and then the evening last? Because the reason why I'm thinking again, we see that day and night is capitalized here, and usually in the text when we see that, it has to deal with some celestial body.
Yeah.
If Okay, just from my line of thinking and opinion based, y'all. This is not fact. This is just me thinking through things. So, Shalom Shakur. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's enough.
Okay. Shalom Shakur, um, being the twins of this entity, right? Yom, which is one of Yahweh's sons, right?
Which is one of
Um,
L's sons.
I mean El sons. Um, then that could be that light could be the creation of them being split into the twins. So it could be okay, where it says the spirit walked upon the waters in the midrash, the spirit is a it's a feminine
Yes.
energy. And
Yes.
it could be that feminine energy of this deity giving birth to these two brothers, which ended up being Yom, Shalom Shakur, day and night, morning, the morning star and the evening star. That's just me thinking, and that means I'm going to write it down and I'm going to study this and figure this out.
That word that we're using for waters there, the ma'im,
Uh-huh.
right,
Mm-hmm.
is also the word that is used for how do we say baby batter.
For baby batter?
Baby
Oh,
batter.
the water word means sperm?
Yeah, it's the same word that you would use for baby batter.
Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Though so that makes it starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see so okay, so now even more I can see the mythology being written I could see this as mythology. Like it would make sense
Yeah, it's definitely mythology.
from a mythological standpoint.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely mythology. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So you got the day and the night. You get these. You got this time. Again, keep in mind this. We're describing a flat, round disc. When we get to that part, we will see that. But we're describing a flat, round disc. We're about to. Let's read the next verse.
Okay. Next verse is, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
Mm-hmm.
And then God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so.
And it was so right. So
And then
the
let me do 8. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day.
second thing, right? So again, we're dealing with this idea of time starting at evening, going to morning, day. But there's this flat land thing or flat disc kind of thing. I won't call it land yet. And now there's a dome over it. That dome is a clear, crystalline, hard dome. You still hear people talk about it now. And it comes from this idea that God made the firmament, right? And that firmament is just like a crystal expanse dome, right? That kind of sits on top of the earth like a snow globe, right? And the stuff that's above it, he called the heavens, right?
Mm-hmm.
A second heaven because there's a heavens that we live in and you'll see this too. There's a heavens that we live under, right? You know how we talk about the first, second, and third heaven that we read later on. There is a heaven that we currently live under according to this cosmology. We live under the first heaven, right? So everything under the dome with us is the first heaven. Okay. Everything over the dome is the second and or third heaven. Does that make sense when I say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And we're dividing waters from water. So basically, the idea is that everything up above that is another kind of water. Right? And I don't know why they call it water. That part blows my brain. I wish I knew the answer to that. I wish I knew the answer to that, but I really don't.
You say you don't know why they call it water?
Yeah. Unless just because they looked up and it was blue like it is in the ocean. And they just assumed it was water. I do not know why they call the heavens water. Other than my only guess is because they looked up and it was blue like the water in the ocean was blue. So they just figured, oh, I guess that's just water up there too. But if you ask me, I honestly couldn't tell you. I promise you, I couldn't tell you why. Other than that, I wish I knew the answer to that. I just don't. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, and God made the firmament and divided the waters. Wait, did I
Yeah,
read that? Yeah, I already
we
read that.
jumped
Okay.
over.
And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so.
Keep
And
going.
God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas. And God saw that it was good.
Right. Okay. This is why I think that the reason why we call it heaven, like again, because if you see like the water kind of reflects what the sky is doing in real life, right? So I could see maybe they thought, well, all of that's just water and it's just divided this way, right? By that line out there, we call the horizon, right? And so in this cosmology, when the waters gathered together, the land appeared, blah blah. So we can now see the difference between like the land is emerging from the water, right? This is just another separation that God is doing above and beneath, and now He's separating side from, or they are separating side from side, right? So now we see the land and we see the water, but all of this is again on a flat disc covered dome. Think snow globe when you're hearing this out, because this is how they're describing it.
Yeah, I think that this is why you get people who believe that no one has ever gone to space,
Yes,
right? And they believe that we literally are in a body of water, like between two bodies of water, and that
yes,
if a rocket tries to leave Earth, they're going to hit the
the
firmament, which is
dome.
water. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, and that so you can't be in space because ain't no space. It's just there, and you get all kinds of crazy stuff out of this. But yes, this is what they're describing. So that the people who are saying that are not like, I mean, they are wrong, but this is where they get it from.
this, and that's why I say it goes back to should this be taken literally or metaphorically, right?
Well, yeah.
You
If you're
know,
trying to do something on Earth, like if you're trying to understand how the Earth actually works, then please do not take this literally. It is literally wrong.
yeah, that's from a debating standpoint, when you're debating with Christians, right?
Yeah.
The fact that that guy, the one that goes on the campuses, I don't know his name, and you probably said his name earlier and it has already left
No,
my
no, I
mind.
see his face, but I can't think of his name. But I know
Okay,
exactly who you're talking about.
yeah, the fact that he was adamantly defending this as if some intellectual deity would actually say this to a human and say, "This is how we created the earth." Like the fact that he was defending this, um, like I don't know, but it's I feel like they are responsible. His name is Frank.
Frank Turek? Is it Frank Turek that we talking about? Is that Frank Turek? Let me see. Let me see if I can look up Frank Turek. Because Frank, I think he does go on college campuses from time to time. But I don't think that's the
Like
guy I was thinking of.
he's the one that said that slavery, that the Bible wasn't used, that the Bible doesn't condone slavery, and that it wasn't used.
They all
Uh,
tell that same lie though. All of them tell that lie.
But
This ain't the
he
guy I was thinking. Let me look up Jordan. It ain't Jordan Peterson that I'm thinking of. There's a specific guy that I'm thinking of that goes. He's kind of tall. He kind of looks like
he looked like the man on The Simpsons.
John Kerry to me.
Yeah, kind of. He looked like Bart Simpson's daddy's boss. No, not the boss. The
Yeah,
news
yeah,
anchor guy.
yeah. That's it. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's,
the
it's
news
yeah,
anchor guy. Yeah.
yeah. I just can't think of. I see his face. I just can't think of his name. But it's not. It's not Jordan Peterson. It's not Frank Turek. It's not William Lane Craig. I can't think of his name. But I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he, like the way that he defends this, and I mean, he's got to be intelligent enough, right, to know that there's no water in that sky.
Yeah, but he's just gonna. It's okay. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't think he believes the Earth is flat either. I don't think he believes.
Exactly.
Right. So the weird thing is because this like new compatibilism where you kind of read a scripture and then you kind of make it fit with something scientific so that you don't come off as a complete Nimrod.
Yeah, his name is Cliff something. I think it's Cliff something. Um, but the fact, but see, that's the thing. Like he knows, he doesn't believe that the Earth is flat. He knows that that if that for this to be saying that a deity, an almighty God, is saying that this is how everything was created, but yet he still preaches it. He still teaches it to children. He advocates for it, even to the point to where his neck was red, like his veins was about to pop out of his neck, debating
Oh yeah,
this.
oh yeah, he mad. He big man. But it's no different than Vor on you spoken to Vor before?
Mm-mm. Wait, no, I haven't.
Vor is on TikTok and he is a staunch creationist, right? But and he talks about the firmament. He's got like a way that he explains the firmament. Doesn't because he don't want to come off as a complete nut job, right? Um, excuse me, got a little heartburn. He don't want to come off as a complete nut job, but he can't let go of the fact that this is not scientifically correct. So he kind of puts a little bit of what we do know into this and tries to make it compatible. It's just not compatible. That's the problem. It's just not compatible. You can try all you like, it just doesn't fit.
And I think the reason why they hang on to it because if they were to admit that it's wrong, that it is all the way wrong, there's more than one thing wrong with it.
That's him. That's him. Cliff. Let me see. Let me see if I can find him real quick. Because I see him in my head. Uh,
I think that I think they feel like it would unravel everything.
yep, this him. This him. Cliff Nettle or what? Nectal or whatever. Yeah, this the guy I was thinking of. He looked like John Kerry to me.
Yeah, he looked like John Kerry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Every time I see him, I think of the news anchor on The Simpsons.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he be mad as hell.
Lying like a
Lying
motherfucker
like a mom.
the whole time, and that's like it makes me so mad. Like when I see him, he just lies.
Just out here telling whoppers. But
Yeah,
the crazy part about when you run into somebody like that, like I believe that Voice of Reason or Vor, and you think, do you really believe this? Are you just being manipulative, or is this like your honest, real life belief, right? And I never can tell the difference. I never can tell. Like that's how I feel about most of the apologists I know or have heard of. It's like, do you really believe this, Chief?
look what Wolford said. He said, "I feel like snow globe Earth has to be the point." I was like, "Nah, this some BS."
Yeah, yeah, but that's basically what we're describing. Just this flat disc where there's water above and below, and you kind of sitting in water, and then there's basically a snow globe, right? And that's the weird part about it is I mean, you basically describe a snow globe, and it's like, okay, but if you say that this isn't true, if we land on this idea that this is not true, well then, if we can't trust this, then what can we trust?
I'm just like, I don't know that enough believers actually ask themselves that question because, like I said, when we get to the sun, like it never dawned on me that one, plants, the plants are created before the sun. You know,
No
it never dawned on me.
photosynthesis. Plants just out here growing and grooving.
Yeah.
They out here growing in grace. That's what they're doing. They're growing in grace and in the knowledge of Christ Jesus. That's how the
And
they
it
just
never dawned on me that, like, as a believer, for all of those years, how many times in Sunday school do they make us read, as kids, do they make us read the story about how God created the earth, right?
right.
Even as an adult, then I turn around and teach it to kids. It never dawned on me. I'm like, wait, how is there plants before there was a sun?
Matter of fact, we about to read about these plants right now. Where we at? We
Yeah.
at we at we talked about the land and the sea. All right, boom. Verse 11. What that say?
Yeah. It said, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind. And then whose kind? Whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was
Mm-hmm.
so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed after his kind, and the
Mm-hmm.
tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And
Mm-hmm.
God saw that it was good. And the beginning, in the evening, in the morning was the third day.
So on the third day, you start to get grass and you start to get trees. Now, on the one hand, at least these people understood that grass and trees were related, right?
Hmm.
Right, that they both came out of the ground and that they were related. Now we know scientifically today grass and trees are definitely related, like they're in the plant kingdom. They are really related. They have a common ancestor, right? And so on the one hand, good on them. Good way to get that right, right? Now none of that's happening without photosynthesis. Okay, none of that's happening without photosynthesis. But keep in mind, they have a god of day and night. You see the difference? Like they have a yom,
Hmm.
right? So they don't need a sun. God did it, right? Now we know that that's not how that
Okay.
works.
Yeah, and that's what most people say when they come onto the live. God can
Right?
do
God did it.
anything. God was
Right?
the light.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But we know that that's not how things go. That's not what Tagwan, right?
Mm.
So but in their mythology, there's a god of day and night, right? And so God just spoke this thing and it appeared, right? Okay. But we know that that's not how that works, right? Okay. Boom, you got the tree. Let's just get through this whole chapter. And I'm gonna go back and tell this whole story again from another perspective.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay, go ahead.
Keep
So
going.
that I was while you were saying that I was looking up the after his kind. So that's what them being in the same group, the mean, that's what it's talking about.
Who said it
The
again
his
from? I'm sorry.
kind. The his kind is the Hebrew word mean.
Me.
Men.
Yeah.
Men. I think it's men.
Yeah.
So this is why men are called men.
No. No.
Okay.
Men is one. It's kind of like a catch-all Hebrew word. It kind of means like because, from, kind. It's like a catch-all preposition. We're going to see the word men in a minute again. But it's kind of a catch-all preposition. Scientifically speaking, kind is just kind of whatever you group together, right? Right, like
Like humankind.
yeah, yeah. But it doesn't really have like I said. Hey, plants and trees are all in the plant kingdom.
Mhm.
But men doesn't necessarily mean kingdom. It's just whatever group you make it. And you're gonna see this in just a second when we get down to where he start making animals and stuff, right?
Okay.
Because the in at this time, people kind of put animals together or stuff together just based on what it does, right? Which is why later on we're gonna read that bats are birds, but
Mhm.
bats aren't birds. But bats fly and birds fly. So they just kind of group that together. Okay, those are the birds, right? They
Mhm.
don't have like that. That's a kind to them. Although birds are way closer related to dinosaurs. Well, actually, birds are dinosaurs, but they're way closer related to snakes than they would be to bats, right? But they don't
Mhm.
know that, right? They're just saying, okay, the flying things, or the creeping things, or the things in the water, or the things that walk on land, right? The things that grow from the ground. That's a kind, right? And then so it's a catch-all kind of blurry word as far as um as far as science would go. But this is why, like, when you talk to people about evolution, they'll go, "Well, I've never seen one kind of thing change to another kind of thing."
Mhm.
Right? They're using this blurry catch-all word, "kind." So men it's a catch-all word. It's kind of like free will. You know how I feel about free will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But the word men existed. Like, it's the same way of like men can actually even mean right hand. Men can mean a lot of stuff. It's a catch-all word.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you answer this question here?
Maybe.
Can you see the question?
What's the question?
If the water is sperm, what is the seed? Is God is God speaking the universe into existence?
You playing about that? Okay. Well, hold on.
No,
Wait.
I don't think no, because if the word for water means baby batter, and then we're talking about the seed after his kind, right? And then I still haven't gotten away from the twins, right? And then the water
Mhm.
being feminine, being the it says that God walked onto the face of the waters, and that being a feminine energy in the beginning according to Judaism, right? To me,
Uh-huh.
it kind of does still sound like reproduction a little bit.
No. I'm saying, like, okay. How am I trying to say this? Like, as a joke, we're saying, "Oh, water is seed."
No, yeah, he's
Oh,
joking. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
you said, yeah,
But no. This is real. Like, water is sperm, and this uh, word is also considered like sperm. Keep in mind that all of these metaphors they jump around, but yes, yeah. So on the one hand, he speaks the earth, the world into existence. Yeah. On one hand, he spoke the word into existence, and you'll find out later on that we are like that was a part of seed, like the his word was like a sperm, right? In it, yeah, yeah. So, Mark, yes, no joke. This is a lot of this is related to reproduction, but don't. But it's never like a. I'm trying to see how to say this. This automatically means this, but yeah, yeah. There are a lot of reproduction overtones and innuendos and blah 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 blah. Yes, but it's not so you like it's not so hammered down to where it's like okay, every time you see the word water, it's gonna mean
right,
sperm. Yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But there is a way to study to see what it means, right? Like, you right, like
Excuse me.
there is a correct way to study to identify what the word means in that context, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But I dare I say to you, here is why midrashes exist. Here's why scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees exist. These words have been used in a million different ways, right? Throughout time, these scriptures have been looked at a trillion different ways. And you can find scholarship to say, oh, this means this, or this means this, or this means this, or the rabbi said this at this point, or the rabbi said this at this point. These words have been used in a trillion different ways, right? So if you ask, let me back. If theology is different from any other ology in the regard, to me at least, in the regards that in most ologies, we have what we call falsifiable things, right? So I can know that you're wrong. I might not ever know when we're right, but I can know when you're wrong, right? If you tell me, if I'm using baking soda and vinegar, that I'm not going to get a reaction, you're probably wrong. We could test that right now. Yes, I am. I'm going to get a reaction. Theology don't work like that. Theology is people's ideas based on how they see it, based on when they saw it. Who are you saying is a credible source, right? Because if we pulled up some rabbis and we midrashed through this whole thing, went through some midrashes, we can find a bazillion, and I mean bazillion, different ideas about this.
Mm.
Well, which one of them's right? Who the fuck knows? Theology doesn't have a right or wrong. It just has a text, right? And it was literally the Pharisees' mission in life to find a new way to use this text.
That's why I don't deal with theology though. Like I zone out when it gets to theology. Because it's for me theology is just people's opinions, or their own personal interpretations of what they think the text
Yeah,
is saying. And I don't debate people's opinions. Like the saying that opinions are like assholes, everybody got
everybody got
one.
it. Yep.
So is theology. Like I'm not going to debate your theology. um it's your personal, it's just like you telling me that you had a supernatural experience with Jesus. I'm not in your brain. I'm not about to debate that. But I know what this text says. I know that I can go and I can look at the Hebrew word or the Greek word. Even if you want to pull up the Targum, right? Like, I know that I can look at that and I can reference that. I'm not about to battle with your damn brain. It's a waste of my time.
Well, what? Here's the weird thing about theologies is, okay. I'm trying to see how to say this. Imagine me and you having a conversation right now, and I say, "Oh, you wore black, I wore black. That's dope. We didn't even coordinate that. That's dope, right?" And we had that interaction transcribed, right? And 3,000 years from now, somebody reads that transaction or that interaction, and they
Mm.
go, "Dope. What does that mean?" And so they go look in a dictionary, and it says dope, a word used for to describe drugs. A dope, a dumb person, a dope. Well, they trying to figure out, okay, well, how did he mean that in that situation? Does that mean that she got the clothes from selling drugs, or that they both sell drugs, or that they're both dumb? Right? The dictionary don't do it justice.
The context though, like okay,
But
so
even in the context, think,
Dan McClellan did a video today. There was a guy on TikTok that says that to eat the fruit was not to be taken literal. That so he's selling Strong's concordances, right?
uh,
And in his video, he was like, "Did you know that the word eat doesn't mean to
oh,
literally eat?" Right? He's like,
yeah.
he went to the Strong's Concordance and was like, "It can be literal or figurative."
Hmm.
So he started to say that Adam and Eve metaphorically ate information, not necessarily
Hmm.
eating fruit from the tree.
Hmm.
And then Dan's response to that, because this is where I think a lot of the confusion comes from when people do just say, oh, this word can be taken figuratively, so I'm just going to
And
apply it figuratively wherever I want to. Like, there's
hmm.
literally rules to understanding uh writings, right? There's
Hmm.
rules to language, and we can't just throw those rules out because we get this woolly feeling, or
Right.
because we don't like what the text is saying, right?
True.
So like what Dan was saying is, um because you have to go by the context
Hmm.
that word is used in. For example, when God says, "My sword eats flesh,"
Hmm.
of course he's using it
Figuratively.
figuratively,
Right.
because swords don't eat,
Right.
right? But then when he's in this garden and he says, "Don't eat from the tree," right? There, of
Hmm.
course, we know fruit grows on a tree.
Hmm.
And so, and in the context of everything, else around that. So, plus in the concordance, it like literally leads you to that they was talking about figuratively eat, like eat, it means eating, chewing, right? For
Hmm.
Genesis chapter 3. But like, I get what you're saying, that nobody can tell you how to read it because you have to get your own learn your own moral from the story, or
No,
your
no, that's
own
not what I mean.
information.
That's not what I mean. What I'm saying, again, going back to the word dope,
Hmm.
3,000 years from now, you will be able to look the word dope up, but you
Hmm.
will not have all the uses for the word dope.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I'm saying is, like, there is no such tree. There does not exist a tree, and we're going to get to that later, but just throwing this out there. There is no tree that has a fruit that gives knowledge. That is not a real thing. That doesn't exist. It has never existed. Right? This, in this regard, is purely like, that's a figurative tree.
Hmm.
Right? So we're using some figurative language, right? That there is no such tree. There's
But
no.
we have to also take into account that there is no talking snakes either,
That's what I'm
right?
saying. There is no talking snake. Like, so this is figurative in a way. It's not so. How am I trying to use this? It is just as crazy for me to take this literally.
Not so. I think what you're saying is taking that this story happened literally, and not that the writer intended, like in this allegory, that they ate fruit from a tree
In
that
an
opened
allegory,
their consciousness, right?
right? In an
Yeah,
allegory, right, right.
yeah.
But
So, but
if
I
I
think
take it literally, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
what I'm talking about is saying that the writer did not intend to say that they actually ate, even though it's allegory, right?
Yeah,
There are still intent words that are used within the allegory to convey a message, right?
yes,
And within this allegory that should be taken figuratively, the intention of the writer is to say that they ate a piece of fruit from the tree, and that piece of fruit is what opened their eyes. Because remember, throughout the rest of the text, Jesus refers to the phrygia, right? He refers to the eye dust that was sold in the church of um Laodicea, right? He tells them
yeah.
like, "Are you okay?"
Having a heartburn thing. No, hold me get a tongue. Having a little
Okay.
heartburn. I'm missing a quit.
Throughout the rest of the text, Jesus refers to Laodicea and their wealth and how they gained their wealth, and they gained their wealth from selling this eye dust that took care of eye infections, but also the eye dust had or eye medicine had a reputation for opening a spiritual awakening, and um Jesus refers to this eye dust in Revelations, and he refers to the tree of life um there in that same thing. So like one could say that the fruit on the tree is what was used in this eye dust manufacturing that opened the mind in Laodicea, what they were selling. Because I remember I told you it sounded like they were hustling. Like it all sounds like a business. They may have been, I don't know. Nobody, I tried to find the ingredients of this Phrygia eye dust that Laodicea was selling. Um, but there isn't any ingredients. It's just known that they grew their wealth from hustling this eye medicine.
Dust.
Yeah, this eye medicine. And then the eye medicine was known to get rid of eye infections, but it was also known to make people have supernatural experiences. Right? So I
Fair.
think
Yeah.
the story is allegory for that tree, whatever ingredient was used in that eye medicine, because it says their eyes were opened, right?
Uh-huh.
So if they ate that piece of fruit, then to me that's representative of that. But he's saying that they didn't have to eat anything, that is just representative that they consumed information, that they started to get smart, right? And they just started to learn stuff that they weren't supposed to know. Right, like maybe mushrooms or something, Gypsy, like something like that. Like to me, that makes sense. But to say that eat doesn't mean eat,
Yeah, it definitely means eat or to consume, right?
yeah,
But if the story in and of itself is an allegory, right? Okay, let me ask the question: is the story an allegory? Let's start there.
yeah. The story is an allegory, but words have to mean words within the
Words have to mean
allegory,
words. Okay.
right? Yeah,
So if I'm eating in an allegorical story, what is the allegory?
that's what I was just explaining. The process of that phrygia, right? Eating that piece of fruit or whatever medicine it was that they were hustling in Laodicea to that gave them that healed their eyes or gave them a spiritual awakening that Jesus was talking about in Revelation.
But before I get to Laodicea, before I meet the Phrygian eye powder, what is the allegory in this?
What do you mean? Like it's
Before Jesus
learning
shows up.
that Jesus that so the allegory is to explain how God's power is, right? Like uh, the the knowledge of good and evil will cause you to do bad things. Like if you know the difference between good and evil, then it will cause you to sin. Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And this is why throughout time, right? people apply this allegory in different ways, right? They apply this allegory because, again, before we meet the Phrygian eye powder, people are already telling this story, and they're using it different, right?
But
And
don't you think when they wrote it, they knew about the Phrygia and the eye powder? Like, because it wasn't that like that. It's not like the Phrygia eye powder came into existence when Jesus was born,
yeah, I
right?
mean, I would assume, but do we know that they knew about said? Well, keep in mind, this is a version. This is a continual version from an older story,
Right. Hmm.
right? So, are we saying that they knew about this in, I don't know, 2600 BCE?
What, the eye powder?
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's
but
what I'm saying.
like that's what. Yeah. I know that from reading the Sumerian story of Enki and Ninzinga.
Hmm.
Inky was in a garden. Inky was there was different trees in the garden that had different fruit on it. Inky didn't want to eat the fruit because he didn't know where the fruit had come from, right? So there
Hmm.
was a snake named Ishnu that convinces Inky to eat from to eat the fruit. Inky eats the fruit and he gets pregnant, and he can't have the baby because he's male. So then
Hmm.
Nazinga comes, which is his auntie. She's a goddess. She comes. She says, "I'll help you deliver the babies." So she puts Inky inside of her, and she delivers the babies in, Inky out. Right. So he has little male gods. Right. So then
Hmm.
Inky is still in pain, and she asks him. She's like, "Well, where are you still hurting?" He says, "My rib, my rib." So then she takes his rib, makes a female goddess, and that's where woman came from. Now,
Hmm.
knowing how old the Sumerian stories are, right? The Babylonian stories are. I just feel like it's just trying to explain that is I feel like the Hebrew version of the story is just their way of trying to explain um why women are the way women are,
Okay.
right? It's women's fault that the world is the way it is. It's women's fault that men have to work, right? It's women
Hmm.
we women are and I'm not saying that men aren't intelligent, but women are very intelligent. um I don't know how to say this without like
Go ahead. Just say
yeah,
it.
like we tend to be teachers,
Hmm.
uh when we operate in, I don't know how to say it, but we tend to
Okay.
be teachers, right?
Okay.
And sometimes a lot of times men want us to shut the fuck up because we make them think about things that they don't necessarily want to think about, right?
Hmm.
And so the way I see it is whoever wrote this did not like women. They knew the traditional Babylonian um um, Sumerian story of Enki and Nzinga, and they just kind of put those two together to explain in an allegorical way why things were set up the way it was, why men got must control women, why men must control information and what women know, because if women are in have knowledge, then things could go awry.
I can see how you use that way, right? And that by no means is a that has definitely been used that way. Let me say it that way. Okay.
Mm.
This is what one of my favorite things that Dan talks about is everyone's negotiation with a text. Right now, again, I'm not saying take words and make them mean what words don't mean. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is that this very same text, and we want to get through this chapter, but this very same text is used for a plethora of different reasons, implying a plethora of different things through time, right? And if we were born 1,500 years ago, hearing this text, it would be used a completely different way. Nobody reading Genesis chapter 1 in the 500s was thinking that, I don't know, this was explaining the Big Bang.
Right, but I think we're talking about in like interpretation, right?
Right, I'm
Versus
talking about the
what.
interpretation.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like what the Hebrew word meant and what the writer's intention of what the word is. right? And to
Yeah, yeah,
say, oh, the writer didn't mean that they were actually eating. The writer meant that they were consuming information. Like to be able to just take a word and apply whatever rule to
yeah.
that word that
That's
you
not what I'm
want.
saying.
But
That's
that's
not what
what
I'm
I
saying.
was talking about. That's what the person was doing in his video, and that's what Dan was responding to.
Oh yeah, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the reading of this text is going to be different. Not that the words are gonna mean a different thing, like the letters in a row are gonna somehow take on a new meaning. But the meaning of the text, not the definition of the word.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of like the die you would die, right?
Yes.
When we talk to them about that. So today on Lowen's live, right?
Yeah.
Um there was a guest who was saying that those same words did not mean the same thing when Pharaoh said it, right? It didn't mean that the person would die the same day. It didn't mean that they would die at all when God said it, but it meant it when Pharaoh said it because Pharaoh is human. But when God said it, it adds a spiritual message to it, and words no longer mean words. And I think,
Words don't mean words.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think this is where the confusion comes in, and why there's so many different doctrines, because people look at they get the strong concordance and they say, oh, this word can be used figuratively or literally, and so I can apply the figurative uh, aspect to it wherever I want. There is no rule that I need to follow to ensure that I'm understanding the text the way that I should be understanding the text.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say the readings are different. Not that the words are different. Keep in mind what I said about Pharisees. Pharisees' entire job was to come up with a new reading. Right. That's exactly what they did all day, every day, was come up with new ways to read. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when we're reading this passage where it used to say, don't, I don't know, don't eat bananas. Right. Well, let's say there were no bananas around. Well, Pharisee would read that and go, see, bananas represent are yellow and green. So green means go. So be careful where you go. Right. All of a sudden that you throw a few little pieces of word association in it in, and then that becomes the reading. Like that becomes the reading for years. Be careful where you go, because God said, don't eat bananas. Right.
Mm,
That means to us, be careful where you go.
mm,
Right. And that's what Pharisees did on a day by day. That's literally what they did for a living. Right. Because parts of these stories are, they kind of die. They kind of go the way, it's not useful to us anymore. And Pharisees didn't believe that the word of God should ever be useless. So they would dig and flip and turn and twist and say, okay, this is how we get life out of this now. Right.
yeah.
Right. So, and that tradition continues to this day. And I'm not saying it is right. I'm just saying, for example, really, there is no reason. I have no reason at all to ever read a creation story. You know why I don't have a reason at all to read a creation story? Because we have cosmology,
Hmm.
we have physics, we can do the math, right? We can do DNA testing on plants and see that they're related. We can do DNA testing on people and see that they're related. We know that we are not made of mud, right? So I have no reason at all to ever refer to Genesis chapter 1. No practical reason to refer to Genesis at all, right? But why am I still referring to it? Well, I'm not referring to it. Well, some people are, but for the most part, people are not referring to it to understand how trees grow or what a day or a night is, right? The reading of Genesis chapter 1 is to confirm the power of God
Hmm.
in throughout all of creation, well, throughout all of
It's
existence.
the introduction of the indoctrination. It's where
Right.
you learn to reverence this God, to be loyal to this God, to feel like the God like you owe the God something because the God created all of
Made
this
all the
and God
stuff.
created you, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
the I feel like it's the beginning of the indoctrination. and why.
Yes. So here is the grand salvo of how this came to be, right? Okay. So, but I'm not reading this. Well, I guess on the one hand, I am kind of reading it to say this is how it came to be, but I know that's not how it came to be, right? Again, I can go read a book, do the math, do the genetics. I can find out how stuff happened. Which is why some people get this hard stop against science, because they're reading it and they're saying, okay, this must be how it happened because this is how God said it happened. And big science is lying to you because they don't want you to believe in God, because their belief in God is predicated upon the fact that God knows how this happened in reality. Now, in order to keep that belief, let's get through chapter 1. We keep stopping. We'll
Okay. Let's see. Then he
we
says
just
in
did
the we're on day 4.
4. Yeah.
Uh, and God said, I'm gonna do a quick read through.
Yeah.
Okay. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from night. See how they are lowercase?
Uh-huh.
And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also.
Quick, just threw the stars out there. That's crazy. But that might be the craziest verse ever. Like, he made the stars also. Like if you really thought about how long it takes, the trillions of stars that exist,
Like
and
they don't
how long
matter.
it takes to make one, and it just threw it up. He made the stars also. That is a wild piece of information. Keep going on. Let's just get through this, and
Yeah.
then we'll pick.
And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. Let's see. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and fowl that may fly above the earth and the open firmament of heaven. So I think it's interesting that the start of the animals came from the waters.
And from the water.
Mhm. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. I wonder, are they getting in trouble if they don't be fruitful and multiply, since they got the same command as humans? Very interesting.
Good question.
Is that a sin for them not to multiply? And God said, let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God said it was good. And God said, let us make men in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them and said unto them the same thing he said to the fishes.
Be
Be,
fruitful.
be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. He didn't tell the fishes to subdue it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just told man. And he told male and female, go subdue it. And
Yeah.
have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth. This is funny when you think about chapter 3. Hold on, and every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given you every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw that everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. In the evening, in the morning, or the 6th day. Okay.
All right. So that's pretty much the first 6 days of creation. That's all of chapter 1. No, but notice in day 4, where the fish come, day 5, you get these land animals, and then separate from them, you get this humankind, and it's a male and female there. They are given a commandment. The first commandment that they're given is go subdue the earth and fill it and multiply and blah, 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 blah. This happens on the 6th day. Yep, that and the third, right? Okay, this, and keep in mind this is all Elohim's talking. There is the commandment has nothing to do with sin. It has nothing to do with doing anything wrong. It has there's no talk about, I don't know, some tree in the middle of the garden. None of that. It's just everything is good, right? In the Elohim, in the Elohist perspective, it's all good. Everything's good, right?
I must also say this is the least interesting book in this chapter in this Bible to me.
Oh man, it's really interesting to me.
Is it really?
But
It's the least interesting chapter in this Bible to me.
because to me this sets up the discord that you're gonna get in the second chapter. If you don't know this, then the second chapter
No,
just seems,
I see the purpose of knowing it,
yeah.
right? It's just not interesting to me. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like, and when I say that, um, like once you read it once, it's like, oh, okay, that's how God created the earth, right? It's not. Is there to me? There isn't anything to harp on unless you are a scientist, right, or somebody that's into science, and you understand how many eras are in it. Like if you're looking at it from a skeptical standpoint, and you understand like how many eras are in it, it's just I don't know.
To me, the theology in this one is the most interesting part. The science part, it's wrong. Okay, we get it. It's
What's the
just not
theology?
scientifically correct. But think about the what the Elohist is saying here. The Elohist is saying, one, that the gods are great. The gods are kind. The gods have given us the earth, the whole earth. What we do in the earth is good. Having babies is good. This is going to be a direct juxtaposition to chapters 2 and 3.
I don't know. I
Right?
didn't get all that. I just
Keep
got
in
like the
mind,
mechanics of it all.
keep in mind the first commandment here that's given to all a human being is flat backing, right?
But to animals too, though, like the fish
Flat
was
back,
supposed to be flat
flat to
back.
all the animals, flat back,
Yeah.
right? Okay. This is good to do. It's just good to do. When we get later on into the chapter, in pain you shall bring forth children. Wow, I need to know that this is how the Elohists think about this versus how the Yahwists think about this, right?
And now, when you get to that standpoint, like if you know about the JEPD, right,
Yeah,
then yes, you can look at it and say this is the Elohist saw God as someone like holy, holy, and reverence him because he did all, and then
yes.
the Yahweh is saw God as someone who punishes, like
Punishes, yes. And
right.
I need to, this chapter sets this up for me so that you understand how the Elohists thought. The
But that's
Elohists
because
didn't
you
think,
know about the JEPD, though. Most Christians
yes.
don't.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So the Elohists don't think that God has to use his hands to do stuff and get down in the mud and spit on stuff and bring it to life. I
Yeah,
speak it, it happens.
yeah.
It's just that simple. And what I speak is good.
Mhm.
And what happens from that is good. There is no fuck it up button to the Elohist,
But
right?
but most Christians don't. Most Christians see one God, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I was a believer, I didn't know that this was two different creation stories because you just don't see that, and then I didn't know about the JEPD until I actually, started studying and I came across your live and you were talking about it to somebody and I went and researched it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you don't know that these are two different creation stories from two different people types of groups of people who worship, you got one who worship multiple gods and one who only worship, one God. You when you read the Genesis 1 story, it just looks like mechanics. Oh, this is how God created the earth. It's mechanics. I don't need to read it anymore.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Once you know the order, you know the order. But again, I think the purpose in like reading it, it's almost the purpose of reading anything in scripture to me is okay. What idea am I learning from the author? Not what did the author say? Because again, what the author says is just wrong, right? Like I don't know any more about how the earth actually came to be from reading that. That's not going to help me in my practical life at all. But
Yeah.
I think what it does is it sets up the juxtaposition that we're going to see a lot in scripture, especially when we get to the flood story. You're going to see a lot of it in the flood story. You're going to right. You're going to the priestly source going to start to kick in. So, but you have to kind of see it from the beginning so that you know, okay, this is that, right? This is that. This is what them people thought about this thing, right? But one of the main things that I want us to notice is again flat circular disc covered in a dome. Notice that the stars are in the firmament,
Mm-hmm.
right? The sun and the moon are in the firmament, right? They're not outside it; they're in it. So they believe in this very uh, local universe, right? That's all centered around mankind.
So flat
And
Earth came from the Elohists, from the Judites.
I mean, a lot
Did
of
that
people thought the Earth was
did the
flat.
Yahwehs did the Yahwehs think
Yeah,
that
they
way?
all thought the Earth was flat, and you're gonna see that in the Book of Job. Like everybody believed the Earth was flat,
Okay.
right? This was just a part of their collective understanding of how things worked, right? But the Elohim, when they're doing their work, it's a clean and holy work. There is no dirt involved. There is no just let the land come together, right? It's very like distant. Oh, that's good. The light, that's good. That's good, right? Very, very majestic. Very like, you know. And anytime there's flatback and introduced into a story, I like to focus on it. Why? Because fuck them. That's why. I'm just kidding. But because this tells how people saw people, right? Okay. Think about if the urge to flatback is considered good or evil, right? If it's considered good, that's a completely different kind of folk, right? If a culture grows up with like this healthy, good, this is a natural part of your life, and da 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 da, you grow up a different way than if you grow up thinking, "Don't do that, you're gonna go to hell."
But where in Genesis 2 did he tell them that flatbacking was wrong though? Because he
Oh, he doesn't
right,
mention it to them at all.
right.
The first time they get the flatback is after the fall,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is going to be used later on when you get into the laws about if you have an emission at night, you're unclean, because their whole sexuality is built after sin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus it being a commandment that you do it. You see what I'm saying? Like that,
Mm-hmm.
it puts the there is a command in Genesis chapter 1. Go do this. This
But
is good for you.
But couldn't it, like, so he says be fruitful and multiply, right? So
Mhm.
he's talking about reproduction, not just necessarily just, flat backing,
But you
for
can't you
that.
can't reproduce without flatback.
But I'm saying everybody that flat backs ain't don't have a
Doesn't
goal of
reproduce. Very
reproducing,
true.
right?
But
So
keep in mind
but
how simple this phrase is. Okay. Again, when we're talking about this, we've already mentioned waters and sperm earlier. We've already mentioned this female thing earlier. We've already this is about the idea of your natural body,
mhm.
right? What is the natural body for? Right. In chapter 1, we're looking at this as it is natural for you to do, and this is why you do it, because God commanded that you do it this way, right?
Yeah, but it attaches reproduction to the command though.
Absolutely. These people are simple. These aren't people who are thinking of the what am I saying? Like ovulation periods and when you're fertile and when you're something. They don't know any of this.
No. What I'm saying is when we talk about sex, being like, right, not for pleasure but for reproduction, like it makes it a utility. The mechanics of that's why I said like it's the mechanics of everything. There is no when he says go forth, be fruitful and multiply. To me, like go and make us more humans.
Yes.
Go make more slaves. So it's not for
Yes.
pleasure,
Well, oh,
right?
wait. He had made the earth to till the ground. That's chapter 2.
No. What I'm saying is, it's just that because we know like these are two different creation stories,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yes.
so even if the Eloists didn't say that, humans were made to till the ground. In that command, when he says, "Be forth, go fruitful and multiply," he's giving them a command to go fill the earth. Go
It
fucking
hurt.
fill the earth,
Yeah.
right? Not go explore, have fun. Sex is for your pleasure. It's good to do that. Like I don't see that. I still see the mechanics
You'll
of
see
it
it
all.
later. You'll see it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about in
When you
Genesis 1. I'm talking about in Genesis 1.
when you get into how Eloists behave about sex, and I almost did a whole live about that today. But anyway, when you get into how they behave
No,
about sex,
yeah, I no, I
you'll see
get
it.
that, but I don't see the God commanding that. That's what I'm saying.
You'll see it
I
later.
understand
You'll see it
that
later.
God commands them to just flat back for fun.
No. Again, when we're reading these things, we're talking about their thoughts concerning it, not the
No. What
words
I'm
of it.
saying is, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, from reading Genesis 1, it is the most boring book to me because it is the mechanics of it all, right? I
Yeah.
don't. And then when you were saying that it's God saying go and flat back, it's a good thing to do,
Mhm.
have fun. Like I don't see that. I see the mechanics of how to fill the earth. Go fucking fill the earth.
This is
And
the
the same
mechanics of
thing.
how to fill the earth. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't see God saying go enjoy the pleasure of flat
But
backing.
you'll see how they use it, is what I'm saying. Right. You'll see this later. You'll see how they use this understanding later on.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that this God was
This
happy
God
with
didn't
it.
say any of this. Keep
No,
that
no,
in
no.
mind.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
According to the text, bash.
No.
Hold
But keep in mind
what I'm
keep in mind
saying
what I'm
is
saying about the whole reading, though. What I'm
no,
saying
no, no.
about the whole reading
Yeah, but
is
keep
that
in mind that we're just doing Genesis 1, right? So
yes,
what I'm talking about, I understand how the Eloists did. Like I know the Eloists had fun. Shit, I would be an Eloist. You know what I'm saying? Like I
right,
get it, but
right.
but there isn't anywhere in the text where the God is saying this is you should be like the Eloists. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
no,
Like
of course not. Keep in
yes,
mind
because
all of this is a redaction.
no,
I should say that earlier. Okay. These are what we're reading here is a redaction. Right? We agree to that, right?
mhm, yeah,
Right. Okay. So these are differing traditions. For example, let me see if I can use this. Okay. You know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk.
yeah. Uh-huh.
All right. Story of Jack and the Beanstalk. We pass this along, child to child, blah, 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 blah. Right. And the story is just to teach you be careful where you go. Right. Don't sneak into people's houses. You might get in trouble. Right.
Mhm.
Right. But the words are guy, beanstalk, blah, 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 right. Okay. What we're setting up here is how they think, not
Mhm.
what they're saying, just how they're thinking. Like
Mhm.
this story is a part of how you'll see how they use this later on. Right. And you'll see how the Yahwehs use this later on.
No, yeah, I get it. I've
Yeah.
seen it. I just what I'm saying is like as far as the intention of the writer, right,
Mhm.
is to say is to give this reverence, is to introduce the God,
The
right?
gods.
Yeah, they're gods. It's to introduce them, and they're
Mhm.
introducing them as someone like gods to revere, to be thankful to be grateful to because they did all of this, right? And then
Mhm.
they introduced the first command of their gods, and that is
Mhm.
to fill the earth, right?
Mhm.
That's all I see. Like I understand how the Yahweh has used it.
Think
I
about
get
how the
that.
Yahwehs treat the rest of the earth. Think about, okay, let's look at how the Elohims treat the rest of the earth.
Mhm.
Is it good or bad to be in the rest of the earth?
For who?
For the Elohims, chapter 1.
It's good, but
It's
that don't
good.
mean that he's saying go have sex just for the pleasure of it, though.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Is it good or bad that they explore the rest of the earth?
It's good.
Okay. To the Yahwehs, is it good or bad to be outside of the garden?
It's bad.
Bad. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Subduing the earth is not a Yahweh thing.
Right. No.
Stay in the garden,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It is actually a
It's a punishment
punishment.
to be out there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
These are the little bitty pieces that were built because the answers are not in Genesis 1, nor are they in Genesis 2
I
or
agree.
3, right?
Yeah, that's why I said this Genesis 1 is the most boring book to me.
Oh, but you need to know these little pieces that they're important little bitty pieces that are going to be built upon. The idea of how am I trying to say this? I hate to use this. I won't do that. Okay. This is a growing and evolving idea. Let me say it that way. A growing and evolving idea,
Mhm.
right? And it's going to grow sometimes positively. It's going to grow sometimes negatively. It's going to be seen in a more liberal light sometimes. It's going to draw back from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going to hear people argue about this throughout the rest of the book, right? And they're going to see it this way, and these people are going to see it this way. So it's important to know, okay, this piece is how that person over there looked back to this piece and saw it this way.
Yeah.
Right. But there are no answers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think sometimes we look at, and some things we can answer. Some things are like answerable. But a lot of this is not about knowing the answer as much as it is to understand, oh, that's where you got that piece from. That's where you get that from. Right. People are putting together their answers later on, and they're borrowing a little piece from this and a little piece from that, and they put those together. And this is why you hear Ezekiel say this and this,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
if I don't know why Ezekiel picked this and this, and I'm like, well, what is Ezekiel talking about? Why is he so mad with this and this? Seems like if he would be mad at this, then he would be okay with this, or the vice versa, right? Where is he falling in this spectrum? Because this is all a spectrum. Where is he falling in this spectrum of his understanding? Why is Paul, what is he reading to make him come to this conclusion? And
Mm-hmm.
why doesn't James agree with him? And it's not just as simple as because Jesus said it, right? It goes back to, okay, where do you fall on this spectrum? Right? What are you drawing from that gives you this conclusion? And if I don't know what the different pieces are, it makes no sense as to why they're coming to that conclusion. Or at least to me, it doesn't.
No, I definitely think knowing what Genesis 1 said, it's still boring to me. Like it's to me, it's still the mechanics.
Oh, I'm not
I,
arguing
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't read Genesis 1 or don't try to understand, what it's saying. It's still to me the most boring book in this, the most boring chapter in this whole entire book.
Even
Because
more
to
boring
me,
than chapter 10,
um,
the table of
well,
nations.
let me say not the entire book, because I think that the chapters where it's the genealogies and all that, like that's. But what I mean is that's telling the story of this God, right? It's to me it's just mechanics, like
Yeah,
it's
I won't knock that.
yeah.
But to me, I think the cool part about it to me is that it's how they see the mechanics. It's not because this isn't the mechanics. They're wrong.
No, I think it's definitely interesting that they got it all wrong,
Yeah.
right? Um, but even with them getting it all wrong, it's because I'm not a scientist. That's why I said unless you are, a scientist and you can discuss the electromagnetic field and the the two things that you named that I don't remember.
Strong and
And
weak magnetic force. I mean,
what is
strong
it?
and weak molecular force, and then gravity.
Yeah, like unless you're interested in things like that, and you can dig deeper into, well, this should go here, or this happened 15 billion years ago when the protons did this, right? Like my mind, I'm not. I can talk about science and biology, but I don't go crazy over it. Like Breezy would probably love Genesis what and break it down, like tear it up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
My mind doesn't do that. Like I'm like, oh, okay, this is them trying to explain how the gods created the earth. They got it wrong. Bam. Let's move on to the rest of the story. That's how my mind is.
And I don't think, as a matter of fact, that kind of helps what I'm saying. You see that way, and there's nothing wrong with the way you see that,
Yeah.
right? But every single, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, the way you teach is a direct correlation to the way you think,
Mhm.
right? So like I know that you're really interested in like people, times, places.
What
That
do you mean?
interests you, right?
Mhm.
What people did what at what time in what place. That's really interesting to you. And you do a great job. Like, hey, this person is really the person that did this thing this year, not that person doing that thing in
That's
that
just
year.
pointing out the inaccuracies in the text, and that's the only way, right? Like I'm more so on facts. Like I
Yeah.
can deal with theology, or
Yeah.
like I don't argue or debate people's opinions,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so that I just I only speak facts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And that is a very good, like, that lets me know how you think.
Mhm.
Not like, so listening to you teach doesn't just, I'm learning more than just the fact that you present. I'm learning, oh, she thinks that way. Right. That's how she thinks. Right.
Mhm.
This is what's important to her. This is what she wants people to know. This is what grabs her attention. Right. If I'm trying to have a conversation with her, I should probably have it in that realm. Otherwise, that's not what interests her.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off into a daydream and then come back later on.
Right. Right. Right.
No lie, like I can't. I get lost. I
And
get lost.
I totally understand that. I totally understand it. But
Yeah.
and it's wise of me when I'm listening to you, if I want to learn from you, because I do want to learn from you, because I do want to learn from you, it's wise of me to know, okay, this is how she thinks. This is how she's thinking. It's not that she's skipping the moral of the story. That's just not what's the most important thing to her here. The most important thing to her here is the fact of the story.
Yeah, like the moral of the story is gonna be different for everybody. So
For
they're like
everybody,
arguing that, or like to me, it's a waste of time.
I totally understand, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I'm saying is that when I listen to you, I know that about you,
Hmm.
right? Okay. If that didn't interest, if I wasn't into the fact of a story, if well, I do like facts in the story, but if I wasn't interested in the facts of a story, I would like when I go listen to Justin,
Hmm.
and Justin is very much about the fact of prophecy, right? The fact of a prophecy. I don't really care about prophecies. I don't really care. Because to me, y'all redact these later on. You move them around where you want to move them. You say somebody wrote something here and they didn't write it there. None of that moves me per se,
Hmm.
right? I just assume they all lying. All of them lying. Well, I mean, to a certain degree they are. Yeah, that ain't really what. But I know that's how he thinks about it.
Hmm.
Right. So the reason that I listen to Justin is because now I see how he thinks about it. But whether or not I don't know, whether or not Isaiah 53 is about Jesus or not, of course it's not about Jesus. Why are we discussing that?
Well, I think it's because of one. I think people deserve the right uh to know the text or to know the story, and be able to decipher it, right? And so when someone is, and then understanding how Christian writers used the Jewish text to make Old Testament prophecies fit Jesus. And
Right.
if they're going to dedicate their life to something like that, they should be given the information so that they can make their decision, um, with the facts.
Right.
Because and then like a lot of times when we talk about on our live, faith is like a loaded weapon. Like okay, for example, today there was a guy on the live and he said that God is not a man that he shall lie, right? And he was arguing
You
people
gonna lie.
down
You gonna lie.
about saying that God doesn't lie. So he was
You gonna
quoting the
lie.
scripture. And so I pulled up the scripture and I read it to him and I said, why are you only reading half of that scripture? I said, it also says that he's not human, that he doesn't change his mind.
Right.
And he literally changes his mind all the time, right? Like, but I said, why are you only taking just that part of the scripture? He said, I've never really read the scripture. He's like, I don't even know where it is. And I'm like, well, why are you teaching this or being adamant about this? You've never read the scripture. You're going half cocked, right? And then you
That's
go
right.
out and you tell other people, hey, you should worship this God because he never lies. And you set this expectation to people that they are giving their life to this deity, to this God who never lets them down, who never lies, because a person went half cocked on some information on, you know what I'm saying? Like, so,
Absolutely.
so I think that people deserve the opportunity to learn the same information that we learned, so that they can be fully informed and make their decisions with that. Those who want to, everybody doesn't want to, right? But
Absolutely.
those who want to, I think it should be available for them, and it's not easily available. Like you literally have to search. It's nobody has really just made this information easily available, and I think it's because those who have had the information know that it would probably um damage the belief system or the religion very greatly. It,
Absolutely.
it was readily available.
When I ask why are we talking about this, I don't mean what is the purpose of the conversation. What I'm saying is, in my interest field, like the things that I'm interested in, I could care less if this prophecy was true or not. That's not what's interesting to me. What's interesting to me is how Justin thinks. Not, I don't really care about, who cares if the prophecy is true? Somebody does.
Yeah.
It's just not me. So I can't say that it's completely unimportant. It's just not important to me. What's important to me is, how does Justin think about it? Right? I like the way Justin's mind works. Not necessarily the topic at hand. I don't really care about the topic. Right? And that's how I read Genesis 1. Not the topic at hand. I don't care. This is wrong. Right? I could totally dismiss offhand, is this correct? No, it's not. Moving on. The reason I find any of this interesting is because it's giving me a glimpse into the mind of the writer, right? Not what they're saying. What they're saying is irrelevant to me. Well, I mean, it holds some relevance, but it's a minuscule amount of relevance to me. I don't care that they think that the plants were here before the sun. You're just wrong about that, right? But what's interesting to me about these things, and this is true in my thinking, I'm not saying that this is how anybody else should read. I'm just saying, to me, what makes this whole book interesting to me is not what they're saying. I could care less what they're saying. I now know what they're saying is incorrect. But how'd you put that thought together? Right? How did you put that thought together? Where were you going with that thought? That's why the way I do my lives, that's why I let people just chat and just talk it up. If you interrupt me, it's fine. Because I really want to know, where's your mind going with this? How did you get from point A to point B? Not necessarily what are you saying, if it's correct or not. That don't really bother me, because I assume everything you about to say is about to be wrong.
Yeah, you have way more patience than I do when it comes to that. Like I cannot. I
Yeah,
can't
but
do
that's
it.
because I don't care if they're right.
Yeah.
I know they're wrong. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to make them be right. Like, I'm probably not gonna convince them that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right. I really like to hear, okay, how did your gear turn? What made you put that together? Like, how does your brain work? Not necessarily did you get the right answer. Because 99 out of 100 times, you're going to come back with the wrong answer. Right? But how'd you get there? Walk me through the process. What were you thinking? And that's what I like about Genesis chapter 1, because it lets you know, okay, this is a very important part of the way the Elohist mind works. Fuck if they right. They're wrong. I know they're wrong. But what are they thinking? How did their God work to them at this time?
Yeah, and I think you can do that. Like for me, I can I can see that. For example, when we talk about Genesis 2, and we have 6 minutes left.
Okay.
When we talk about in Genesis 2, when I say that I imagine some man writing this story, right, who already has somebody cracking the whip on him, because the curse is, oh, you're going to go out and you're going to sweat by your brow and that's your punishment. At this point, when this is being written, this is somebody who that's already happened to. They already have kings and people are already over them. They probably have been a slave previously, and they're bitter about that. They're upset, and they feel like it's a curse, on mankind, that men have to work, right? I feel like, I imagine the person that wrote, I mean, Genesis 3, not Genesis.
It starts
I
in 2, but yeah,
Yeah. Uh, I imagine that that person don't like women too much,
probably not.
right? And they wanted to explain why, men should rule over women, like when you get past Genesis 1. Well, let me check, just go back and not say you. When I get past Genesis 1, then the analyzation of people's thoughts and what they were thinking at that time and place, it gets more interesting to me.
What did they
um
think about women in Genesis 1?
that they were mechanics, like to reproduce, like,
And men were mechanics to reproduce
yeah,
too.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it's, to me, I just see the mechanics of reproducing and replenishing the earth, and
What
that's
was
what
the hierarchy of men and women in Genesis 1?
they were together. They were one. Yeah. Like, I see that. I see the difference between the Elohists and the Yahwehs. That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
still the most boring to me.
Well, they have less
Still,
conflict.
yeah.
Yeah, the Elohists are not as conflict driven, right? They don't have as many. They don't have as many, like they're not as power hungry, right? The Elohists are. That's just not the way they thought of a society, right?
No, I mean, their stories in the Bible are
They get
interesting.
gangster. They get
Yeah, what
gangster.
I'm saying is just
Yeah.
Genesis 1 is just not that interesting to me, is
No,
what
no,
I'm
no.
saying. Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just saying why it is interesting to me. I'm not saying that it should be interesting to you for the
Yeah.
same reasons. It is just interesting to me because it is an insight into a basics of their thought,
Yeah.
and I love that. Right, like I want to know square one. How'd you come up? Like, what are you thinking? What do you mean?
Mhm.
Right. And I I like to hear that kind of stuff. Not that it not and I know that I'm a weirdo for liking to hear that kind of shit. Right? I'm also a weirdo because I will go and find out what adenine is. And adenine is just this one random chemical that probably most folk don't give the first shit about. But I'll go listen to 6 hours worth of lectures about adenine. Very, very simple, basic chemical that helps make up DNA. Right? It's really simple. But hey, that's one of the building blocks. Let me find out about it. Now, most people might want to know how genetics work, or where do we get genetic mutations from, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I'll get to that. But I don't think I'll understand that if I don't understand thymine. And thymine is boring, but it makes DNA. And DNA is exciting. Right? And that's how I think of it. Right? And I'm not saying that everybody should, because everybody won't. That's just how I see it. So that when I get to the more complex
But
things,
that to me, that makes sense why Genesis 1 is interesting to you, because the
Mhm.
mechanics matter to you, where the mechanics doesn't to me.
Yeah.
Like the machine works, right? So it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, the machine works. I don't care. I'm gonna fuck how you built the machine. If I get in this bitch, let me drive it. Right?
Oh yeah,
That's
I
how
want
I
to know
feel.
who
Yeah,
made
you
the
ain't got to give
brakes.
me a lecture on how you built this car. Just tell me that it works. And then, if you know what I'm saying, that's what Genesis 1 to me is like. These are the Elohists are trying to introduce us to their gods, and this is how they did things, even though it's wrong. I can acknowledge that they are wrong. When I was a believer, I didn't know that, right?
Yeah.
But I can acknowledge that they got it wrong. Do I give a fuck enough to argue it? No, I don't. It's not that. It's not. To me, the mechanics of it all, arguing the mechanics of it all, is not interesting. What I would possibly say is, yeah, your God literally uh said that he created plants before the suns existed. Like, and I may refer to it, and then I'm just gonna move the fuck on, because I'm
But
not.
then you
You know
skip
what
the
I'm
fact that
saying?
it wasn't one God that did it.
But and they don't like to acknowledge that, so I don't.
That
I
to
don't
me is
typically
a
stay there.
yeah, like that to me is a whole discussion, right? That this was not one being, and like you think that this was one God that did one thing in a. This was a bunch of gods that had conversations, and
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
yeah. Now that they don't like to stay there, though. They don't acknowledge that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if trying to show them in Deuteronomy 32:8, that there's two gods, and that they still, it's right there in their face that
Yeah.
there's two gods there, and they still deny that. So, like, arguing with them about let us, and then the Elohim, or who is us in the garden,
That's
to
what I'm saying. But
me,
those things connect to me.
but
And
they
that's
don't
what I mean.
accept
Like,
it.
that's why that's interesting to me. Because that's going to connect later on. It
But
doesn't
it's
even make sense in Deuteronomy if
But
I
but that's
don't
what I'm
have
saying, like, for
anything
you and
before it.
me, yeah, but I can acknowledge that Genesis 1 says, "Let us." I can
Mhm.
acknowledge that. I don't have this dog in the game to be like, "No, it's only one God," right?
They do, though.
yeah, that, but they don't want to accept it. So staying there with them, to me, it's a waste of my energy when I can get them to focus on other things in this text so that they can like it just, ignite some type of thought, right? That gets them to researching on their own, right? Like I don't have, my goal isn't to teach them the entire Bible. It's to get them to want to look at it and say, to question, to start asking questions to where it sends them on their own journey of researching and understanding, right? But
Yeah,
sticking on that one part about the multiple gods, when I know that they're going to be very adamant that there isn't one. Like if Deuteronomy 32:8 and 9 doesn't convince you that there's multiple gods in this book, definitely Genesis 1 is not going to do it.
well, depending on how you read it, I guess. Right? Like, I guess. Right? I just like I feel like if a person reads it, like they could go, oh, well, you're taking that out of context in Deuteronomy. Like, oh no, you just the Bible doesn't say that. Well, yes, it does, and this is a piece of my ammunition to show you. Oh no, this is a long held, because I'm trying to understand the culture, because the culture is not one thing, right? Like the culture is not like, it's not this one, like everybody believe this one thing. And I think that's what makes this beautiful. Like that's what makes this fun to me. Is that everybody don't believe one thing. You know me, I say all the time that this is not the word of God. This is a conversation about the nature of the divine. And each and every one of these little pieces, and I'll be glad when we get to Genesis chapter 2, so we can, get into the fun kick-ass part. But each and every one of these little pieces are pieces of the nature of the divine, right? And in those little spaces, like when you go from having two of every animal on the ark to seven animals on the ark, that's a big deal, right? And you might not notice how big of a deal that is at the time. As a
That's
matter of fact, you read that and you don't really think about it, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that does, like, until I, learned about the JEPD, um, I didn't see that, right?
Right?
But I still don't see how how Genesis 1 would help me see the differences in that. Like what would help me see the differences there would be understanding that the JEPD, understanding that there were multiple, that one, what, even after I read the study of the JEPD, I still didn't quite understand Elohim and Yahweh's until I was like, oh, that's the kingdoms that separated. That's why. You know, so learning the history behind it, the facts of it all is very important to even get a understanding. Like I could see people playing around with interpretations because all they want is interpretation and they don't really give a damn about you know the truth or the history behind it, right? Um if you're looking for just a fairy tale, then none of that matters. It doesn't matter what you believe, right? If all
Mhm.
you're looking for is this fairy tale, none of that matters. But if you are peddling this as truth, right, and you're packaging it as truth to your children, to people in the community, to people who are going through certain things, then I just feel like people should be more responsible with that.
I think and I'm gonna shut up after this. I think the like divide, not even divide line, but like the blur between what we're saying is, I'm when I'm reading this, I don't care what, I'm not reading this to change anybody else's mind or to teach them anything. Or I don't care what they, it's all wrong. When I'm taking this in, I'm taking it in to take it in, not to put it out.
No, yeah, no, I get
Yeah,
why
yeah,
you're doing that. What
yeah.
so I've always said on my page, like everything, every conversation I have is intentional. Like I don't just sit and have conversations for the hell of it. I can't do it. Like that's it's just not in my
Not in your
nature.
nature.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't just text me, but like, what you doing? And you don't want nothing. Like that's gonna irritate the living fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not that type of person. Although like I'm nice, um I call and I check up on people, we check up on each other, but I'm not just gonna sit and just talk about nothing. Like dead air to me is the most uncomfortable situation to be in.
Ah, I love a little bit of that.
Like it's uncomfortable to me. And then when people try to force a conversation, it's like the one word like like I can't. It's so uncomfortable for me. But um so I am sharing the information. One, I get excited when I learn something new. I want to share it to whoever wants it. Like not pushing it down anybody's throat, but
It's
whoever
exciting to
wants
share.
the information here.
Yeah.
I'm a wealth of knowledge. I'm gonna put it out there. If you want it, here it is. And then my intention is to make sure that I am not misinforming you. So I'm gonna give you as many resources uh that you can go and research for yourself, right? Not because I just want to, you know, like I don't know. Like I'm very intentional. Um when I make videos. Like I haven't made a video in 2 weeks because I haven't felt like anything necessary to say. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I try not to. I try not to just loaf about talking. Right. I want to say things that I think are poignant. But when I'm reading something, like the minutia of it is really important to me. Like the little bitty pieces of things they make a. Me and my mom had this little saying that says that's a very important little part. We said it in church all the time. That's a very important little part. And because a lot of times in my life or in my thinking, it's the little bitty things that change the steer the big boat, right? It's the little bitty gears that turn that steer the big boat. And I like to know, okay, what was that little gear, right? Like what people would consider literal trivial information. Trivial information to me is really important. I'm that way about everything in my life almost, right? Like,
Does it get overwhelming? Like, you know how they say don't sweat the small things,
oh,
right?
I sweat all the small stuff.
Does that get overwhelming?
Nah. So me and my mama have another little saying that says, life is hard by the yard, but it's a cinch by the inch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So break it down into little small things. You can understand the little small things,
Mhm.
right? Just a little bit. Like I don't have to understand it all. I don't need to understand it all. If I can understand this one little bitty piece today, I've
Mhm.
done something good. I understand that one little piece,
Yeah,
right?
but I think like for me, I get the importance of understanding the small things because sometimes like when you're researching, you're reading something, you're like, well, what does that mean? And you go, and you research it, and then it could open up a different, So I completely get that. Like, but for me, focusing on things that there are like picking and choosing what small things to sweat or what small things to harp on, trying to understand every little small thing it can be very overwhelming.
I can get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I've noticed about you that like you'll link big ideas together. Like you'll say, "Oh, if that's true, then perhaps that goes with this idea over here." Because I know about this idea, and that could go with that idea,
Yeah,
right?
and that's how I
Yeah,
research, right? And then I
yeah,
debunk myself. And then in doing so, I learn other things, right? That's how I form my questions.
yeah.
But like focusing on like if like in the middle of that, every every little bitty small thing, right? Then I would get stuck on one
Get stuck on
idea.
one thought.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
I get
like
it.
it would overwhelm me. It's like why I can't really do design because I swear to God, if I every time when I was like, create a design, I'm gonna create 50, 11 of them. And I'm gonna be like, it could be
Because you're
better.
stuck on the little small stuff.
Yes. Yes. It
What's
overwhelms the fuck out of me. So I have to outsource that. Because I will get stuck there, continuing like changing it. It could be better. It could be better. It could be better.
I'm the other way. Well, like when it comes to creativity, I'm the other way around. I am very much big picture. I do not care about the details, right? Did it feel good when I did it? Cool, go with it, right? I'm not gonna sit around like, oh, this is a personal thing. Now I'm just discussing my neurodivergence, but personal thing. This happened to me this week. I was working with this artist. I write songs really quickly. I don't know if y'all can tell this, but I write them really quickly, right? Because I just go with, did it sound good when I said it? Did it feel good when I said it? Great, right? Did it make sense? Did it sound good? Did it feel good? Go for it, right? So I've had days where I've literally written 5, 6 songs in a day. I think the most I've ever done is like 8 songs in a day, right? Because they just fly off. Right? We're talking about this goes, boom, go with it, right? This week I was in with an artist, love her, she's a sweetheart. but she's very like word for word. I don't write like that. It's really frustrating to me. I can't get bogged down in that little thing. I just can't. I'm gonna cry. Right? Like this should be moving faster than this. It's not that hard to me. But in scripture, or when I'm thinking about how other people think, I do like I focus on that. Right? Like that's my like hyper focus. But creation, oh man, let it fly. Just go for it. Like get to the point. Get to the point. Like so I do understand that. Like get to the part where it gets fun. That's how I feel about songwriting. Get to the fun part. Right? Get to the where's the hook? When do I get to sing? Right? Uh, but in scripture, I'm very much like, let me read that word again. Let me go figure out. Let me spell that word. What does that word mean? How are they using it? When's the first time I see it used in history? Blah blah blah. Like I get
Oh, yeah,
really,
I do that too. I do that too. Like when was the first time sin was used in history? Like when was the first time fornication was used? Like I do that.
yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying like I get what you mean. Like because all of that is a part of uh studying, and it's a part of like my neurodivergence because I'm going to dig into and I'm going to stay on something until I get a complete understanding of it, or as best as
As
I
you need.
believe. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I'm going to dig and dig and dig and dig. It's just that when I say the mechanic, and I guess again I'm just going back to the science of it all. I'm not that like it's just not
That's just not your
interesting.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
get it.
interesting to
I
me.
totally understand that. I
Yeah,
100% understand that. And it doesn't have to be. I want to let me make sure that I tell it does not have to be. This is another reason why I say the way everybody reads this is going to be different because what they find intriguing about it is going to be different. The kind of what they're looking for in it is going to be different. So what they get out of it is going to be different. Right? If you're going into this as a linguist, you're going to be looking for linguistic patterns. You're going to bring people back to the fact, hey, that linguistic pattern is the same as this. You should know that, and that's
yeah.
fine. That's right.
But no,
Go
I,
for it.
I think that all of that, like, I don't know why, but I don't know how to explain it. Like, even that, like, that if I was studying the time period that it was written, and I was
Mhm.
studying the patterns of language, right, of what Hebrew was used, that it would be interesting to
That
me,
would be interesting, right?
right?
If
But
that was what, but if you were looking at it as a botanist, right, then all you would care about is the fruits, right? And what does
no,
that
what I'm
mean?
saying is like because I would be interested in looking at it from like if I was studying, that would be interesting. Like I would be interested in looking at it like that, right?
Hmm?
Because it's that's a part of research for me.
It could be. It doesn't have to be.
No, I said for me it is
Yeah.
like studying the time period of when the text was written, right? That's a
Hmm.
part of research for me,
Hmm.
right? So if I was studying the different um from classical biblical Hebrew to archaic, late biblical Hebrew, if I was studying the differences between the two, then Genesis 1 would be interesting
In that regard.
in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um but because it's just in the day one he created this, and day two he created that, and day three he created that. And I think the way that it's written as well, um, most of the Bible is written in like poetry and prose. I don't see poetry
It's a list.
yeah, it's just a
But
list.
it is a poetry though,
It is a
because
list.
but it's got this hook. If you're reading for poetry, then you're reading it for the hook. Da 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 this day. Da 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 this day. Da 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 da. And then
Yeah.
you can lay day one over day four, day two over day five, day three over day six. Right? You could see the poetry parallels if you're looking for that. Right? But if you're not, if you just like if you're looking for like a cool story or like it's not the most fun story. I get that. I bring all that up to say again that everyone is going to see something different. Everyone is going to be looking at it through the eyes that they have,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
Through
I agree.
right through what interests them, through what moves them, blah blah blah, right? And I'm glad we got a chance to read this. I'll be glad next time we get to chapter 2, so we can see a different, like the writers having a different perspective and then the readers having different perspectives.
Mhm.
I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I
What
agree.
a time. What a time. Thank you to everybody who joined us. We out of here, right? We are.
Yeah.
Actually, we know. Thank
Yeah.
you to everybody that joined us. You guys are great.
Yeah. Thank y'all so much for joining us on our first podcast. What I'm gonna do, once it ends, I'm gonna unpublish it and then we'll edit it down a little bit because it's 2 hours.
Ah, okay. I will
Yeah.
do some editing. Fun times. You guys are great. Think of you are amazing and wonderful and good. And
Back at you.
I
I
appreciate you for
always
this
learn a
time.
lot. I always learn a lot. Whenever I talk to you, you've helped a lot of my studies. So listening to you and talking to you, so I appreciate that. Yeah, rabbit hole. He always opens up some type of rabbit hole.
So many rabbit holes. So
Yeah.
many random rabbit holes. That's my problem. Yeah, that's my problem. But thank you guys,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate you, my love.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right, y'all. This is the end of episode 1 of Verses and Vibes. Hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, we'll have our outro and our intro. And we'll let y'all know when y'all can start sharing the episodes. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see y'all on live.